I kid you not, I am literally going through a regular morning trying to think about what I'm going to talk about in today's video. And I'm thinking like nothing like so notable happened in the NBA last night, at least nothing that I hadn't already talked about. Like I've already talked about De'Aaron Fox and the Kings, the Warriors. So I just thought to myself, like, maybe I'm just not gonna make a video today because there's nothing I feel so, passionate about. And I kid you not, maybe 10 seconds later, the news breaks that Karl-Anthony Towns has torn his meniscus. And it sucks for just so many reasons. I mean, to me, I think the biggest reason why this sucks is because, like, okay, so there's the obvious, like, if Karl-Anthony Towns obviously misses, an extended period of time, that's, like, really bad. But I feel like even in the best case scenario, if he returns, in the shortest amount of time possible, and I don't know when that is because they're still trying to like, figure out what the timeline could possibly be. Because I feel like with torn meniscus, it really varies. Like I think you might actually also be able to play on a torn meniscus. I could be very wrong about that. But so like they're still trying to figure out. But I just feel like even if it's like best case scenario and Towns returns in the least amount of missed time as possible, he's still not going to be at 100%. He's still going to need some ramp up time. And considering that we're already in March and the playoffs are roughly a month away, like I don't know how much ramp up time he's going to get. And it's so unfortunate because the Timberwolves were one of the best stories of the year, where Anthony Edwards takes another step towards what feels like inevitable superstardom. More importantly, Rudy Gobert really seemed to validate the trade that the Timberwolves made for him 2 summers ago and is looking like the defensive player of the year, looking like the guy they wanted when they traded for him, and it was working really well. Like the Timberwolves were this surprise #1 seed. They've been the #1 seed for most of the season, and Cat was also a really big part of that. He's putting up great numbers: 22 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting a career high 42.3% from beyond the arc. And I think more importantly, he really seemed to accept his role as sort of more of like the co-star to Anthony Edwards, the Robin to Anthony Edwards is Batman. I think that was always sort of a weird dynamic because Cat was there first, and so he sort of felt like it was his team. And even though Ant came and he was also a #1 pick, and maybe think like, oh, he's probably better than Towns, it was like a weird dynamic. But I give a lot of credit to Cat for sort of taking a backseat and saying, oh, this needs to be Ant-Man's team for us to really succeed. And he did that, and it was clearly working. And this isn't me saying that I think that the Timberwolves were going to win the championship or get to the finals. I ultimately don't really know where they're going to end up in the playoffs. I think they have a very high variance in terms of playoff outcomes, where the wrong matchup, I could see them losing the first round to like a more experienced team like the Lakers. But maybe things crack right for them and they get to the conference finals. Ultimately, I still didn't know, but I was so excited to find out because this Timberwolves team has had such minimal success for the entirety of their existence. Like, you listen to Wolves fans, like, this has literally been the best season for them since 2004 when Kevin Garnett won MVP, got them to the conference finals. And so, like, I don't know what that was going to result in, but I was really excited to see where it would go. And now that Towns is injured, it feels like they're not at their best. And again, like, even if he comes back, you still feel like he's going to be compromised in some way, because I think it's really difficult to just, like, come back from a torn meniscus, and just be 100% back to your former self. Basically, just like whatever their ceiling was, I feel like they're not going to be in as good of a position to reach it as they otherwise would be with the healthy Towns. And look, obviously injuries happen across the league. You got to deal with it. And I think the Timberwolves, to put some optimism on the situation, are better equipped to deal with Towns' injury than most, because they do have Naz Reid. They do have those 3 big guys, and Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert have been really good together. Naz Reid has been putting together a really fantastic season. So to have a really good replacement ready for him, I think will definitely help issues. But just like, it's just such a bummer, because if a team, loses in any round, you still want to say, well, okay, it's just because we weren't good enough, our best wasn't good enough. You never want to be able to say like, oh, what if? You never want to have those hypotheticals floating around. And I feel like Towns' injury creates that hypothetical, unfortunately creates that hypothetical of oh, well, what if we were healthy? Like, we could have really done some damage this year. And that's unfortunate, because the Timberwolves looked really good, because it was their best season in 2 decades. And also just because, like, you never really know what the future holds. Like, obviously, some people might say like, well, this Timberwolves team, like, they're still young, they still have so many of their core guys locked up, like, they're still going to be next year and the next few years. It's just like, you never really know how many years you have with a certain team. You never know how the rest of the league is going to look, and you never know. Like, again, like they have to keep certain guys, they're gonna have to pay certain guys, luxury tax, all that stuff. And so you never know what the future holds for a team. Like, that's why me personally, as a Knicks fan, I feel really frustrated because it feels like the Knicks have this really special team. And again, you could say like, oh, well, next year once we're fully healthy, we'll be good. But then you just don't really know what's going to happen next year. You want to take advantage. You want to strike while the iron's hot. And I imagine most Timberwolves fans felt that way, especially because they're catching a lot of the league by surprise right now, where I think the league is going to take them more seriously next year. And it was such a bummer for Towns, who was having one of his better years. And more importantly, he was doing it on a winning team. I know that's been a criticism of his for a while, where he puts up these really impressive stats, but he doesn't do it on a winning team. Well, he was doing it on a winning team now. And for this to happen, it really sucks. So just wishing him a speedy recovery, and just I hope that like whatever, however much he decreases efficiency wise and like from an ability standpoint, I hope it's like as minimal as possible, because again, like I don't want this special Timberwolves season to be sullied by the what if Towns was healthy. Like, if they're gonna lose, all right, and say, oh, this team was better, this team executed, whatever. Like, I don't want it to end with this annoying hypothetical, because I think Timberwolves fans deserve more than that, considering how lackluster most of the last 20 years have been. They deserve a special playoff run, and I hope they can still get it.